Now joining me in studio to discuss the International Marconi Day event at the Marconi Tower is the president of the Binghamton Amateur Radio Association, Drew Desker, and one of the organizers of the event, Alan Lutens. Thanks, guys, so much for being here with us.
You're welcome. Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, so every year we celebrate this day, and so maybe kind of just give me a backstory and why it's so important that we celebrate this day.
Well, we're very fortunate here in the Binghamton area to actually have a piece of really significant radio history, and that of the Marconi Tower. And actually, Alan is really quite our Marconi aficionado. So, Alan,
yeah, Marconi was almost single-handedly responsible for inventing radio. And it was a huge deal back then. We don't know his name like we know people like Edison and Ford and stuff, but he was famous in his day. He built this tower as part of an experiment. There was a couple towers here and a couple in Scranton. It was an experiment in communicating by radio to a moving train, and nothing like that had been done. They had communicated with ships. Marconi famously became a hero the year before because the SS Carpathian, a ship out in the Atlantic, came to the rescue of the Titanic and rescued hundreds of people because they had a Marconi wireless radio on board. So he was a very well-known name then. And he came the next year to do this experiment, which people had a lot of doubts about because they thought you needed this huge antenna. They had these massive wire antennas between the towers here, and they had massive antennas on ships, but you couldn't easily put a massive antenna on a train because they got to go through tunnels and stuff. So they had this, thing they cobbled together and were hoping would work, and it was a total success. And it made news headlines in all the papers and scientific journals of the time because,
Actually, Marconi, I believe, won a Nobel Prize for his work in developing radio. So it's basically, for many years now, there are various Marconi sites throughout the world, and ham radio operators will gather, usually ham radio clubs that are close to one of these sites will gather. They'll bring their equipment down, and as I like to say, we're going to make that tower radioactive this Saturday. And it's an event that we're really trying to also, it's part of sort of a citizen science month, and trying to get people to learn more about ham radio. People think, well, now with the internet, ham radio, who needs it anymore? Actually, the number of ham radio operators is growing. In fact, actually, this past winter, the club ran a ham radio testing workshop over 6 months, over 6 weeks, and we basically came up with we managed to get another 36 people licensed as ham radio operators, and some of them hopefully will come down and actually get on the air operating this event.
Ham radio serves as a really important backup for emergency communications. It's still used when hurricanes hit and tornadoes and earthquakes hit and stuff and all the conventional stuff goes down. People think, oh, I got cell phones, but those cell phone towers generally have batteries that'll get you a day or two, and they're overwhelmed. Everyone's trying to make calls. Ham radio operators always come to the rescue and provide emergency communications for the Red Cross and emergency services. And this event, which is an international event, actually helps to serve for emergency preparedness. We bring all our equipment downtown and operate at some tables, off the street, and it helps, to know, one year I had my radio and my power supply and I realized I'd forgotten my microphone. Another year I had like everything except for the power cord. It really helps you with your emergency preparedness, which is a really big part of amateur radio.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up that not many people know Marconi, and it's like talking about radio, something that not just listening to music in your car, but emergency situations as well. And so yeah, that's really interesting. And so now you are leading the Binghamton Amateur Radio Association. Maybe kind of give me some background into that, and just how cool it is to be in an area where radio has such a rich history.
Well, the Binghamton Amateur Radio Association has been around for over 75 years. In fact, actually, Ed Link of Link Simulator actually was a ham radio operator, and he grew up in this area here. Many people from IBM, now Lockheed Martin, a number of engineering companies in the area have a lot of engineers here who are ham radio operators. But I actually got my license when I was 12. And so I've been doing this for a while, and it ultimately led me into my career. The club is actually an opportunity for people to again, learn about ham radio, but also learn from each other. We have a lot of great members of the club, and each of them seem to know various aspects of it, and so we all learn from each other. We share that knowledge very freely. It's a great opportunity also to sort of get your geek on, get your nerd on a little bit. But ultimately, like, to me, radio is just a magic thing. You don't see it, and I can talk into a microphone or talk on the Morse code key and talk to literally people around the world. I've talked to astronauts on the International Space Station through ham radio, and we've done that up at Copernicus Observatory. So it's just the ham radio group is really an opportunity for people to learn more about radio and get involved and possibly see what this might do for a career.
Now, it seems like you have a strong passion for this starting when you were 12. What is it like that this weekend, everyone around the world with the same passion as you are all joining in this?
Well, I enjoy it. There's sometimes hams will get on, have these little contests, and we have what we call a pileup, where people are trying to contact me in particular. And so you start developing an operating procedure of how do I very quickly establish that contact, make that communication, and then move on to the next. The next station. But also with ham radio operators, sometimes it's just an opportunity just to get on and talk to people about any number of things. And again, there are literally hams around the world. And what's also great about ham radio is that if you're a ham radio operator, immediately you're one of my best friends. And so there's this camaraderie that ham radio seems to support.
People think that ham radio is not that relevant anymore now that we have the internet, because it used to be a big deal to talk to somebody in another country, from my basement and all. Now, like, anyone can do that. But amateur radio operators have always been at the forefront of technology. They developed the digital technologies that are behind cell phones now and such, and we constantly are developing new technologies and working with each other that eventually wind up becoming important technologies in their own right and get adopted by commercial entities.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for that lesson. I appreciate it. And we got an exciting event coming up this weekend. So for those of you who might have missed those details, this Saturday, April 26th, is International Marconi Day, and it's being celebrated right here in Binghamton at the Marconi Tower. That is at 45 Lewis Street in Binghamton, which is the old Lackawanna train station. It's being put on by the Binghamton Amateurs Radio Association. The website is on your screen now and can be found at lutens.org/Marconi. The event is open to the public and anyone interested in learning more about the importance of radios in today's day and age. This day features all ham radio operators around the world setting up radio stations at different Marconi sites, meaning you will get a chance to hear and maybe even speak with operators far and wide. It's going on from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. this Saturday at 45 Lewis Street in Binghamton.